Well, as usual, the topic at the forefront of my mind is communication, because I really like to communicate. And I'm really fascinated with communication and communication problems and the things we say and do, which seem to make sense, but don't make sense while we claim to be aiming for solutions and creating more problems. All right, this is the dilemma of the life we live today with so much communication in media and news and social media and in our conversations and over texts and email and phone calls. We're so inundated with mediums of communication that it has, I don't know, I guess as far as I'm concerned, changed the rules of communication. And yet, also, as far as I'm concerned, there still are some truths. The problem with the truths in communication from probably a communication theory perspective, such as, there's a sender, a receiver, and then there's stuff in the middle that distorts what the person says before it hits the listener's ears. I think that's a theoretical idea that's still accurate. And in fact, if you ask me, things like email and text and other in-between noise and distraction are ever more present and ever more problematic. So earlier, myself and a couple of other people were listening to a woman who, well, I will say was struggling a little bit, right? Having problems, a little emotional about it, and, talking through those problems. And what was interesting is that, she had a basic tenant main idea as to what was her primary problem or challenge to overcome. And after we spent some time listening to her, myself and another person had a little bit of a conversation about how to help her. And what was interesting to me was that my perception was that although she was emotional and having a hard time, she was doing really good because she was showing up for herself. She was taking the right action. And if you ask me, I feel lots of different things that aren't pretty or pleasant. That takes a second or back seat to what I'm doing. Because what happens is when I ride the wave of emotion and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get in that water and I'm going to do the deal like I'm a pro surfer, I get crashed and banged around by waves. But yet, if I teach myself how to surf, if I get myself a good board, if I practice a little bit, what happens is that the actions that I take produce a different experience of those same emotions after time. So this woman was doing the right things to prepare herself for the wave, but she was clearly in the middle of some good, healthy waves, right? On the other hand, another person that heard her or was listening heard her struggling in a way that was creating more problems, and in fact honed in on this one aspect of her problem, which to me wasn't the primary problem, but it seemed to be the thing that resonated with the other woman about what this person's problem and challenge was. Now, the details don't matter. Here's what matters. What matters is why are there different versions, right? And then I can give you what I heard out of this woman. I can give you the version of what I heard out of the other woman that was listening. And then there's also a version from the woman who was speaking about what's really happening for her, which I can never understand, right? Like I can try to understand, I can be present, I can listen, I can use the skills that I've acquired. But the truth is I'm always coming to the table with my own perception, my own feelings, my own values, my own guidelines as far as how to live and how to grow and how to heal and how to emote and how to understand what's happening within myself. Interestingly, the introduction to this woman was made in a way where either I myself or the other woman are in a position or could be in a position to help her, right? And so it's really phenomenally interesting to me. It's like, why are all those perceptions and what do we do? Because this little instance of like what happened in this conversation between me and two other people around one person's challenge, that stuff is going on around major challenges in the world. And I feel like if we can't come to the table understanding that there are different perceptions of what's being said and what's happening, and despite what we see on video and despite what we conclude is absolute proof, there's so many other underlying circumstances as to what happened before or after that video, or even you can take you can have three different takes on what you saw happening in that video depending on who's watching it, right? So it's really, really interesting. And as I seek to understand myself better, live in the world better, grow, help other people, I need to be clear that my perception is my own. And I need to be constantly examining what that perception is so I can help people, which I do by asking questions. Because when I start forming my own perceptions, I form fixed ideas. I think I know what someone else needs, and then I start trying to play God in their life. That's not my job. That's not why I'm here. People pay me to help understand them so that they can better understand themselves and have better lives. Not according to my prescription, but according to a prescription that they can find and grow within themselves from this power that I help them create. So hopefully that's helpful for you today or tomorrow or whenever you have another conversation that ends up going a little bit odd because you had 3 different conversations in one. We'll see what happens then, right? But just think about it and pause. And just remember to ask questions because it's interesting what you find out when you ask more than tell. Thanks for spending time today.